In this Nebosh topic, IGC 1, Element 1, I'm going to continue with the topic safe movement of people in a workplace. We're talking about safe movement of people in a workplace. We are going to discuss about hazard in a workplace. Hazard in a workplace can either be like slip, trips, and fall on the same level. What is slip? Slip is an hazard, smooth surface, wherein the surface is smooth, and this surface can either like polish or wet. It can be wet, but because of this contaminated surface, wherein it's flat or leaves is there or right, so it can lead to someone to fall down. What is trip? Trip is an hazard also. It's referred to as an hazard. Is an uneven or loosened floor, right? Losing floor, like floor that is not complete. Maybe the interlock is not complete, or let's say a socket breaker, it strips. It depends on the context, right? So that one can lead to trip, right? Then also we're talking about fall. A fall also fall to the floor on the same level, right? Someone can fall, right? It can either have a twist the arm or the leg, right? Then also we're talking about fall from the height. When we're talking about fall from the height, walking next to an unprotected edge, like when you are walking to an unprotected edge, like a scaffolder, right? Like these irons they put to build a buildings, right? So you're walking towards the edge without using the PPE, personal protective equipment, or having there is something like a sling, a rope you need to attach to yourself and also to the iron in case you fell down. How that iron can you cannot reach on the floor, right? So we're talking about by an excavations or a fragile materials above and drop, right? Using an access equipment or ladders, or standing on an object like a chairs or high level of something. You know, sometimes people use chairs and other things to stand on it to do some certain work, so that one can also lead to fall. So but we are looking at the preventive, right? For you not to fall, what you should do in using ladder, right? When you are using ladder, at least someone should hold the ladder, and when you are climbing, you have the step. Watch your step and where you should step till you climb the ladders. So those are the safety precaution that you should use. We're talking about collision with movement of vehicle, right? Collision of with movement of vehicle when using a pedestal walkway, that is where people are using the footpath, right? That is called pedestal walkway, or crossing points, right? Crossing points, or when walking and adjacent to move a vehicle from the roads or loading bay, right? So like like to prevent accidents, right? So instead of human being to be collide with vehicle, they have to make a separate way where a human being will use this way and a vehicle should use this way, right? Then we're talking about striking by moving, flying, or falling objects. What they mean by striking here, right? Moving objects automatically, like machinery, stop welding robots, or unsecure objects. Then flying objects, you have to eject the parts, right? Swaft from mental drilling, thrown objects like scarves are like these irons they use for building. So how they can couple up this machine by not injured someone, right? By not injure someone. Then we're talking about striking against. We're talking about falling objects. That is, falling objects simply mean by loading, falling during the lifting and handling operations, objects, dialogue during work at and heights, slants from the roof, or due to adverse weather or condition. They are the scaffolder. The scaffold board is in a gallon, dropping of an unstable object properly. So this simply means that falling from an object, let's say like this ions they use for building, like when they are doing construction. So whenever there is a weather condition, they should always check this scaffolder if they are still strong or good, right? Because sometimes because of weather, the wind, someone can fall from that scaffolder, right? So we're talking about another topic, talk about striking against fixed and statutory objects, right? And statutory objects, right? So in this topic, right, objects that project into a pedestal areas or a route, material sheets projecting into a walkway, narrow doorway, low overhead, right? Then those hazards can also cause serious or fatal injury. They can also occur while person is involving in maintenance activities, because maintenance engineers often work in a location and a situation as a result of a fault or a problem. So this simply means that most of this, like this scaffolder, like these engineers, painters, it depends, they are prone or exposed to this kind of danger, like falling, right? So they should take some certain things into consideration, how they are doing their painting, how they are doing their engineering work. And also some of them, the weather also affects this situation, affects these circumstances, right? Maybe you are doing your construction work, you are painting some house, or you are doing laying a block, because of the wind is high, or because of sandstorm, that period, it can also be affect or can lead to trip and fall also. Then we're talking about control measures for safety movement of people in a workplace. So when we're talking about control measure for the safety of movement of people in a workplace, we're talking about one, a risk assessment. We need to do a risk assessment. Risk assessment is identify the hazard facing by the pedestal. Pedestal mean the people or the contractors, and must consider the natural movement pattern in and around the workplace, the impact of the weather condition and the maintenance process, as well as the need of a particular group of a people, right? This simply means that the risk assessment that we need to do, these are control measures, like you have to look at the weather conditions, right? You have to, which people are using this particular area, this particular office, right? So they have to look at the weather condition. Then we're talking about floor surface, right? So floor surface also and the walkway should also be well built and maintained to copy with traffic levels, and should have an appropriate level of slide resistance. There should be adequate drainage, and spillage should be immediately clean to guard against a slip, and a walkway and a stair should be kept as clean as mud as snow as possible. Use the gifts. This simply means that this surface in every facility or area should always be clean. Then they should always put protection. Protection means that where people can use, if there is an edge, they should put protection there. At least someone can hold it when it's going down, or when it's going up, or when it's using that particular place, right? So whenever there is a water on the floor or the ground is rough, they should always try to polish that ground for it not to cause tripping. Then also, if there is a water in the floor, the cleaner or housekeeping should always try to clean it for it not to cause slip, right? So we're looking also on the other one, there should be the control measures. There should be sufficient well-defined traffic routes and designated walkway of adequate width and headroom to allow people to circulate safely and easily, right? Those should be clear of obstruction and may be designed by guide rail, cramped and pavement or floor making, right? So they should also make a design where it can protect people. If any area they have to condemn the area, put like barricade and some other things that can protect people. Then also there should be a sufficient well-defined traffic route. Okay, then also we're talking about fencing and guiding should also be provided on open walkway, and a protection from moving vehicle, edge protection to prevent fall and to prevent access and hazard. So this simply means that they should create like a fence or a fence or a guiding. Guide mean like a iron wherein people are not supposed to use this way, use the correct, like a direction, right? Like also for a vehicle which will block a vehicle from having access to the pedestal. Pedestal simply mean the people to have access to people way. So the vehicle will have to use their own way, while people are using their own way. So these are all control measures, right? Then we're talking about also clean, visible and understood sign and warning make or lights should make a pedestrian aware of the unfamiliar situation and hazard. So we're talking about this clear, visible and understand design. These are talking about signs and symbols that in every workplace or facility or community there should be direction of signs and symbols. These signs represent this one. Okay, the floor is wet. Okay, this is pedestrian way. This is where people should walk. So those are the signs we are talking, because it's visible. People can see it, and even people who don't speak or maybe deaf and dumb, they can understand that these are signs and symbols which can guide the footstep of people, right? So these are all control measures in every workplace or facility or governmental areas. Then we're talking about personal protective equipment. What is personal protective equipment in control measures? Short as hard hats and anti-slip footwear and high visibility cloths may also be necessary. So let's say, for instance, there are certain place or certain areas or office where people supposed to use their PPE, that is personal protective equipment. So in that particular area, maybe the weather is very harsh in that place, or like say in a machine place, or a place that needs so many safety, right? Your hand, your body can expose to danger. So in other way around, you have to use all those personal protective gears. So these are control measures that every employer in certain offices, it depends on what items or what office they are dealing with, that you can use that one to put a protective measures, right? Then we're talking about information and instruction of training, right? And supervision should also help ensure that the correct procedures are adhering to, and that people do not act in their irresponsible manner. So this simply means that people should follow the informations, right? Because in every facility or every community they have their rules and regulation, right? So every staff should follow that, or every staffs or people should follow their guidelines or information about that place. If you know that this facility or this place that I should go, I should have ID card, I should have this document, I should follow these rules, then you should follow all those rules, right? Then also we're talking about maintenance also. Maintenance of safe workplace will include, right? Then when maintenance are working, they should clean and housekeeping to remove waste and debris and trip hazard. Also to keep the floor and walkway clean and free from contamination. So when maintenance they are working, they should always make sure that where they are working should always be clean. If they remove any items, they should not put it abruptly just like that. There should be a control measures wherein for them also they will not maybe come and step on one equipment they remove, you know, that equipment will maybe at the end of the day damage, you understand, or also can lead to accidents also. Then also keep the passageway and corridor clean between working areas, right? External working area, and to ensure the safety of access and graze. Then maintain adequate working environment condition, that's comfortable and heat level, adequate light and low noise, right? So like in terms of those AC, when maintenance are working, they should always try to be in a very temperature, little bit of normal temperature areas, right? Then we're talking about inspection also in maintenance. Inspection and repair of guard rails and fence are necessary. So maintenance, they should always try to, in this workplace, they should always try to repair this fence and guards that they use, these irons that they use to guard a footpath. You know, maybe it's rust, or maybe it's damaged, maybe someone hold it and it can triple, or so there are a lot of incident that we have to prevent from not occurring, you know. So the frequency of cleaning and inspection and the time scale for repairing will be depends on the nature of the workplace, right? As we discussed earlier, many types of incidents can occur whilst a person is involved in maintenance activity. So it is important that risk assessment is thoroughly engaged to cover all the eventuality and measure and controls measures are sufficient to reduce the risks as low as possible. Then another point we are talking about is the working at an high height. Working at an high height means that you are working in this scaffold or these big ladders, like you are painting. When you are working in a high height, you have to be careful. So I'm going to measure example of working in an high height. Typical work activity at an height include like roof construction, demolitions and maintenance, then erecting and dismantling of scaffolding, then windows construction, then cleaning, then any inspection or maintenance work like welding, pipe work, which may also be done above the ground level, right? So this simply means that working in certain heights like construction, like when you are making a roof, erecting some certain, like when you want to demolish the irons that you use to paint or other things. So these are the preventive measures, right? So the main risks that are associated with working at an height are, when we are looking at the risks, what are the risks when you are working at an high height? One says the worker fall from the height, and fall from the height can result in death. Your neck can broke, your spinal cord injury, lead to permanent paralysis and multiple of breaking bones, right? Then also an object fall onto a person below. Falling objects also can also cause several injuries that may result in death, brain damage, paralysis and multiple breaking of bones. Working at an height can also cause a high proportion of fatal than any other type of construction work. So all this topic talking about working in a high height, what are the control measures, what are the impacts in case of accidents occur? So if you are working in a high height, if you fall down, you can either break your bone, your neck, your spinal cord. It can lead to permanent paralysis. So all these safety precautions are things that we should take into consideration to stop people, or the preventive measure to take when you are working on an high height. When you are working in an high height, what are the precaution, the measurement that you're supposed to take? So these are what we are going to discuss, but we are just have highlighted that the example when you are working in high heights, what are the dangers that can occur if you don't use these preventive measures? So we're talking about the basic hazard of walking at an high height. What are the hazards, right? You say the vertical distance involved. So let's say if you are walking in a high distance, right, you are prone to hazard. Anything can happen, because if you are in a high place, you look down, maybe your eyes can turn, maybe weather can affect you. Then also number 2 say fragile roof and roof lights are void. You understand? So if the roof also is fragile, let's say very soft roof, the pan, the zinc that is there is not strong, so you're also exposed to danger. Then he's talking about deteriorating or unsound materials may collapse under the person weight, right? So then also unprotected edge on access platform, right, or the scaffold, right? So like every edge of the scaffold, like this iron they use for construction, they will put it around of the building. So most of the edge you have to put barrier, you have to put something that will protect you in case of maybe you take one step behind, anything can happen, right? Then we're talking about also the unstable access equipment such as ladders and lifts and hoist, right? So if you have a ladder, right, a ladder that you are using, you have to make sure that this ladder be strong and firm, right? Then we're talking about weather and air flow may also cause material and people to blown off a roof or a scaffold, right? So also the hazard also, if you are working in a high roof, because of weather conditions, there is a sandstorm also, that one can also endanger people's life. So you have to look at the weather condition also. Then we're talking about losing of building materials, that is tiles, bricks and timber, and the waste material may fall from the heights because they have been properly stored or put, because the structure are scramble. So this simply means that sometimes because of the length of period up the roof or the ceiling, some certain nails they put or certain material they put there, they fix the attachment, might also fall on someone. That also can lead to accidents, right? We're talking about another topic, talk about preventing fall and falling material. When you're talking about preventive fall and falling material, we have to highlight that the risks associated with walking heights can also be managed using a simple hierarchy, right? So in walking this height, the prevention also, you have to avoid walking at an height. Then if walking at an height can be avoided, then prevents falls, right? If fall cannot be prevented, then minimize the distance and consequence of fall. When applying the hierarchy collective protection measures should also be preferred over the personal protection. So these are the things that you should follow to prevent when you are walking in a height, or you avoid walking in a high heights location, right? Then the following measures should also be taken where there is an risk of people or material, right? Like the brick, timbers, you have to take those into consideration when you are walking in a height. Like you are in the roof, right? You have to look out for those things. Maybe those things can fall on you, right? Then also you have to ensure adequate planning and supervision of the work to be carried out. They have to supervise, right? Supervision is more important also to prevent accidents. Then avoid adverse weather conditions such as ice and rain and water. So if you are walking outside in a building, right, then there is a high weather, the weather condition, you have to prevent and look out for those ice and other things or rains which can affect and lead to trip and slip, right? Then also we're talking about providing physical and safeguard to prevent fall, such as toe board, like the scaffolder. Scaffold means this iron that they are using for building construction. You have to laid on the edge a right angle to to the work platform, like a guide rail. Guide rail mean like iron or fence to protect you. Then constructing a means of access and a working platform of a sound and a stable material to support the weight of the people and the equipment. They have to provide properly construction working platform using the candle, right, and suspend the working platform where required, right. If you know that everybody is tired, you have to stop the work. Then using suspension equipment like boat strain, chairs. If working with a short term or an erection of the working platform is not practicable, then use fall arrest harness, particularly when open and edge have to approach during the steel erection. Then full training must be given to operator of short equipment, right. Then we're looking at you have to ensure an arrangement are in place to deal with emergency rescue if required, right. So this simply means that emergency, if any person fall down or anything, somebody cut his wound or anything that happens, you have a emergency response team that will take the person at that particular moment, right. Then also ensure the head protection is worn to protect from falling objects on material. So this simply means that you have to, the people that are working in the height, they have to put their elements, their safety elements on. So maybe something might fall on their head, anything can happen. So with that thing on your head, it can prevent damage of the head, right. Then we're looking at another topic, talking about working practice, right. I will talk on that, safe working practice for access equipment. I will explain on that.